The Silverfang Kingdom slept beneath the silver crown of the full moon. From the highest towers of the Alpha King's fortress, the night stretched like an endless ocean of stars. The walls glistened with dew, ancient stones soaked in centuries of power and blood. Inside, the palace glowed with firelight, every torch a reminder of the authority of its ruler. At the heart of it all, Jennifer, daughter of the Alpha King, walked the endless marble halls. She wore her heritage like a chain. Born heiress to a throne built on dominance, she was expected to embody strength, command, and absolute obedience. Yet behind her poised shoulders and regal silence, a restless heartbeat, one that longed for freedom. That night, unable to endure the suffocating watch of courtiers and guards, Jennifer slipped past the gilded gates. Wrapped in a hooded cloak, she descended the winding paths toward the village that lay in the valley. The air was different there, raw, filled with the scent of wood smoke, laughter, and the life of simple folk who feared no throne in their own hearths. It was there she saw him. Charles, a boy with no title, no power, no claim to greatness. His hands were rough from work, his tunic patched with wear, yet when he looked up and their eyes met across the glow of a village fire, he did not bow. He did not flinch. He saw her not as the Alpha's daughter, but as a girl, lost, searching, alive. That night, under the same moon that blessed kings and peasants alike, a forbidden story began. A story that would test bloodlines, ignite rebellion, and carve a new fate for the kingdom. For love, once kindled, could not be hidden forever. If you enjoyed this story of love, resilience, and new beginnings, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales that will keep your heart hooked. The days that followed turned into a dangerous dance. Jennifer could not forget the way Charles's eyes had lingered on her without fear, the way his smile broke through her carefully built walls of discipline. She returned, again and again, shrouded in shadows, slipping past guards who believed her to be fast asleep within palace chambers. The village was alive in ways the castle never was. Market stalls glowed with lanterns, filled with the chatter of merchants and children. Music drifted from taverns where the people sang freely. For the first time, Jennifer felt invisible, not as the heiress, but as herself. Charles was always there, sometimes splitting firewood, other times laughing with friends by the well. He had a quiet strength about him, the kind that did not need crowns or titles. Their conversations began cautiously, a word here, a question there. But soon, their meetings stretched into hours. She told him of the stars she watched from her tower. He told her of the river where he fished as a boy. She confessed her longing to be free of duty. He confessed his fear that freedom was only ever an illusion. One evening, during the Festival of Wolves, Jennifer stood hidden in the crowd as torches lit up the night. Drums echoed through the valley, and dancers whirled in circles around the fire. The people cheered as a wolf's silhouette leapt across the flames, a ritual honoring the bond between man and beast. Charles stood beside her close enough that she could feel the warmth of his arm. "You don't belong here," he whispered. "And yet," she replied, her eyes locked on his, "here is the only place I've ever felt I do." The music swelled, and for a breathless moment, time seemed to halt. His hand brushed against hers, fingers grazing in defiance of every law written in blood. She did not pull away. But shadows never stay hidden. From the edges of the crowd, a pair of watchful eyes lingered on the cloaked woman beside the village boy. A jealous cousin, sworn enemy of Jennifer's happiness, had begun to suspect the truth. And in a kingdom where love could be as dangerous as treason, suspicion was the first strike of the blade. Jennifer did not yet know that the flame she had kindled with Charles was already setting fire to destiny itself. The moon had begun to wane, but Jennifer's nightly escapes only grew bolder. Each time she ventured into the village, the mask of the Alpha King's heiress slipped further from her face. With Charles, she laughed, freely, recklessly. She spoke without caution, confessed without fear. In his arms, she found a freedom the castle could never offer. But freedom comes with consequences. It began with the sickness in the mornings. Faint at first, a wave of dizziness that she dismissed as fatigue. Then came the sleepless nights, the restless flutter beneath her heart. At first, she denied it, too afraid to face the truth. But one evening, as she stared into the polished glass of her chamber mirror, Jennifer pressed a trembling hand to her belly. The truth could no longer be hidden. She carried Charles's child. The air itself seemed to grow heavy with the weight of the revelation. She was the daughter of the Alpha King, bearer of royal blood. Her womb was meant to secure alliances, to birth heirs worthy of crowns and thrones. Yet within her now stirred the life of a village boy, a child of no rank, no name, no future in the eyes of the kingdom. Jennifer's heart was torn between terror and joy, terror of her father's wrath, the council's judgment, and the cousin who already watched her too closely. Joy, because the life inside her was born of love, not duty. When she next met Charles by the river, the truth spilled from her lips in a broken whisper. "Charles, I carry your child." For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The rushing water stilled in her ears, the whisper of the trees fell silent. His eyes widened, not in fear, but in awe. Slowly, he reached for her hand, pressing it against his chest. "Then we will protect this child together," he vowed, "no matter what it costs." But the world around them was already shifting. Her cousin, ever watchful, ever envious of her position, had followed her again. This time, he saw more than stolen glances. He saw the tenderness in Charles's touch, the devotion in Jennifer's eyes. He knew, and in that knowledge he found a weapon. Back within the castle, Jennifer felt the eyes of the court burn into her like knives. The Alpha King grew restless, his questions sharper, his tone heavier. "Why do you vanish at night?" he demanded. "Where do you go, Jennifer?" Her excuses grew thinner by the day. The walls of her secret life were closing in, brick by brick, until there was no space left to breathe. And then came the night of betrayal. Her cousin slipped into the king's chambers, his words dripping like poison. "She is hiding something, my lord. Something that will stain the throne in shame." The Alpha King's rage thundered through the castle like a storm. The hunt had begun, though Jennifer did not yet know it. She clung to Charles, her hands trembling, her heart fierce. "I will not give you up," she whispered. "Not you, not this child, even if the whole kingdom turns against me." Charles kissed her forehead, his voice steady though danger pressed close. "Then let them come. They will learn that love is stronger than a crown." But shadows had already gathered, and before long the entire kingdom would know the secret that threatened to bring the Silverfang dynasty to its knees. The castle had grown colder. Jennifer felt it in every corridor she walked, in every pair of eyes that followed her with suspicion. Whispers curled through the air like smoke. Servants paused when she entered, their conversations cut short. The weight of secrets pressed heavier than the crown that would one day be hers. Her father, the Alpha King, loomed over the throne room with a presence that made even warriors tremble. He was a man forged of iron and fire, his voice thunder and his gaze sharp as the fang of a wolf. For days his questions had grown more pointed, his patience thinner. Now, there was no hiding from his wrath. "Jennifer," he said, his voice echoing against the marble pillars. "There are rumors. Rumors of betrayal. Rumors of dishonor." Her breath caught. She kept her head bowed, but her father's words struck like blows. "Tell me," he demanded, rising from his throne. "What truth are you hiding from your king?" Her lips trembled, but her heart steadied. She thought of Charles, his warmth, his loyalty, his promise. The child stirring within her gave her courage she never knew she possessed. "The truth, father," she began, her voice trembling yet clear, "is that I have chosen love. Not power, not politics. Love." Gasps rippled through the council chamber. The cousin who had betrayed her smirked in the shadows, his eyes glittering with triumph. The Alpha King's roar shook the very stones of the hall. A village boy? A peasant? You dare taint royal blood with filth from the mud? Jennifer lifted her chin, defiance blazing in her eyes. He is not filth. He is more noble than any man who cowers in this hall, and he is the father of my child. The silence that followed was suffocating. The king's hands curled into fists. The council muttered, horrified. In that instant, Jennifer's fate was sealed. Guards, the king bellowed, bring me this boy. Bring me his head. That night, the palace erupted in chaos. Soldiers stormed into the village, their armor gleaming under torchlight, their orders merciless. Doors were kicked open, huts overturned, families dragged into the streets. Charles fought. With nothing but a rusted blade and unyielding courage, he struck at the armored wolves that sought him. His strength was no match for their training, but his love for Jennifer gave him fire in his veins. Each blow he landed was for her, each breath for the child he had not yet seen. Jennifer, trapped within her chambers, pounded on the locked doors until her fists bled. Her cries echoed through the palace, but no one came to her aid. She could hear the faint roar of flames from the valley, the screams of villagers as the king's wrath consumed them. At last, a single guard, loyal not to crown but to compassion, whispered through the bars of her window. Princess, he fights for his life. For you. Escape while you can. The king will not stop until he has destroyed him. Her heart thundered in her chest. She seized the moment, slipping through the shadows, cloak drawn tight around her swollen form. Every step she took toward the village felt like a war against fate itself. And then she saw him. Charles, bloodied and cornered, surrounded by soldiers. His blade was broken, his breath ragged, but his spirit unyielding. When his eyes found hers across the chaos, they burned with the same fire that had first drawn her to him. Jennifer, he shouted, even as a soldier struck him to his knees. She surged forward, but rough hands seized her arms. The guards dragged her back, their jeers venomous. Watch, Heiress, one sneered. Watch as your lover dies like the dog he is. But Jennifer did not weep. She did not beg. Instead, her voice rang out, strong enough to silence the battlefield. If he dies, then so does your kingdom, she cried. For I carry his child, the true heir, born not of tyranny, but of love. And no fire, no sword, no king will erase that truth. The soldiers faltered. Even hardened warriors trembled at her words. The cousins sneered from the shadows, eager to see her broken. But in the hearts of the villagers, and even in the eyes of a few soldiers, doubt began to bloom. The Alpha King's wrath, however, knew no bounds. His roar split the night. Take them both. Let them learn what it means to defy the throne. Chains closed around Charles. Jennifer was torn from his side, dragged back toward the fortress. The air was thick with smoke, the ground soaked in blood. And yet, in that moment of despair, their eyes met, and neither looked away. For though the world sought to tear them apart, their love had already become stronger than the throne itself. The dungeon walls dripped with cold, each drop of water echoing like a heartbeat in the silence. Jennifer lay chained against the stone, her body aching, her spirit burning. She had been stripped of her silks, her crown, her titles. Yet even in rags, she glowed with a fierce light. For within her grew not only a child, but a defiance that no chain could bind. Charles was thrown into the neighboring cell, bloodied yet unbroken. When his eyes found hers through the iron bars, strength returned to her veins. He reached for her, their fingers brushing through the gap in the rusted steel. They can cage us, he whispered hoarsely, but they cannot cage what we are. Jennifer pressed her forehead against the bars, her tears falling onto his hand. They will kill you, Charles, they will kill us both. But I will not let our child grow in chains. It was then that hope appeared where none should have been. The same guard who had warned her before slipped into the shadows of the dungeon, keys clinking softly at his side. His face was pale, his eyes darting nervously. "My lady," he whispered, unlocking the chains with trembling hands. "I cannot stand by and watch this injustice. You and the boy must flee. Tonight." Jennifer grasped his hand, gratitude blazing in her eyes. "You risk your life for ours." The guard bowed his head. "Not for you, my princess, but for the kingdom, for the child you carry. It is hope we have not known in many years." The chains fell, and the darkness of the dungeon gave way to freedom. Hand in hand, Jennifer and Charles slipped into the night, cloaked by shadow and guided by desperation. The forest beyond the village stretched endlessly, its trees whispering secrets under the pale light of the moon. The pair stumbled through roots and brambles, their breaths heavy, their bodies weary. Yet in the wilderness their bond grew stronger. Charles carried her when her strength faltered. Jennifer, though burdened with child, bore her pain without complaint, her spirit unyielding. At dawn, they found shelter in the ruins of an abandoned watchtower. There, with only the song of birds for company, they rested. Charles bound his wounds with strips of cloth, while Jennifer pressed a trembling hand against her belly. "He will never stop hunting us," she murmured. "Then we will stop him," Charles replied. His voice was steady, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. "We cannot keep running. One day we must stand and fight." Jennifer turned her gaze toward him, the fire in her eyes matching his. "I was raised to be a queen, Charles. But now I see. I was meant to be more. Not a queen of thrones and laws, but of love, of freedom. If we stand together. For our child, and for every soul my father has crushed beneath his crown." It was in that ruined tower that a vow was born. Not of royalty, not of politics, but of rebellion. Meanwhile, the Alpha King's fury spread across the land like wildfire. His soldiers scoured every forest, every mountain path. Villages trembled under his wrath, for he demanded that no one shelter the fugitives. His cousin, drunk on ambition, whispered in his ear, fanning the flames of vengeance. But whispers of another kind spread as well. Whispers of the heiress who had defied the throne, of the village boy who had stolen her heart, of the unborn child who could unite the blood of kings and commoners. To the weary and oppressed, their story became a spark of hope. Days turned to weeks. Jennifer's belly grew rounder, her steps slower, yet her will never wavered. Together she and Charles forged a life in hiding. They hunted, gathered, and dreamed beneath the stars. At times the world felt impossibly vast, the odds insurmountable. But in each other's arms, they found strength. One night, as the fire crackled low, Charles took her hand and pressed it to his lips. "I am no prince, Jennifer. I cannot offer you palaces or armies. All I have is this heart, and it beats for you, always." She smiled through her tears. "And that is worth more than all the crowns in the world." Their kiss that night was not of secrecy, but of promise. A promise that no matter how dark the road became, their love would light the way. But fate would not allow them peace forever. At dawn, the horns of the king's hunters echoed through the forest. The ground shook with the march of armored feet. The rebels had been found. Jennifer clutched Charles's hand as the sound grew nearer. The time for running had ended. With the child within her and the fire of love burning bright, Jennifer rose to meet destiny. No longer the obedient daughter of the Alpha King, no longer the hidden heiress. She was a woman who would fight for love. And this time, she would not run. The forest trembled with the sound of horns. From the shadows of the ruined tower, Jennifer and Charles watched as the Alpha King's soldiers encircled their refuge. Armor gleamed beneath the rising sun, blades drawn, eyes merciless. The air reeked of steel and bloodlust. Jennifer's hand pressed instinctively against her swollen belly. The child within her stirred, as if sensing the storm to come. Charles tightened his grip on her shoulder, his own body battered but unbowed. "They've found us," he said quietly. Jennifer's eyes burned, not with fear, but with fire. Then let them see us. Let the whole kingdom see. The soldiers dragged them back to the palace in chains, parading them like trophies. Villagers lined the streets silent, their faces pale with dread. Yet in their silence lingered something dangerous. Hope. Whispers fluttered like birds in the air. There she is, the heiress who defied the king. And the boy, the one who loved her. They say she carries his child. When the great doors of the throne room thundered open, the Alpha King awaited them. His presence filled the chamber, his fury like a storm unchained. He rose from his throne, eyes burning with betrayal. You shame me before my kingdom, he thundered. You disgrace the blood of kings. You dare to claim a child sired by this filth? Jennifer lifted her chin, chains clinking at her wrists, her voice steady as a blade. Yes, father, I do, and I will not deny it. The council gasped. The cousins smirked, certain the end had come. But Jennifer's voice grew louder, stronger, carrying through every stone of the hall. You call him filth because he has no crown, no army, no bloodline. Yet he has given me what no throne ever could, love. And through that love, life itself. Our child will not be born of fear and politics, but of hope. That is a legacy stronger than any crown you wear. Her words struck like lightning. Even the guards shifted uneasily, their grips faltering on their spears. The Alpha King's face twisted with rage, but for the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. Charles stepped forward, though chains bound him. His voice was rough but unwavering. You can kill me, Alpha King. You can strip Jennifer of her title, but the child she carries already carries the future. No sword will silence that truth. The hall erupted in shouts, counselors demanding punishment, soldiers whispering in unease, villagers pressing at the palace gates outside. The kingdom was listening. The kingdom was watching. The Alpha King raised his hand, ready to strike judgment. But in that moment, Jennifer stepped forward, breaking her chains against the marble floor. The sound rang out like thunder. Her eyes locked with her father's, not as daughter to king, but as woman to tyrant. No more, she declared. I am not your pawn. I am not your heir to barter away. I am Jennifer, daughter of the Alpha King, lover of Charles, mother of a child who will inherit not chains but freedom. If you wish to kill us, then do it before them all. Let your kingdom see what kind of king you are. The silence that followed was suffocating. The Alpha King's hand trembled in the air. His eyes swept the hall, where his people now knelt not in loyalty, but in fear, where even his soldiers shifted with unease. And in that silence, the truth became undeniable. The people no longer saw strength in his fury. They saw strength in her defiance. Slowly, the Alpha King lowered his hand. His voice was a growl, broken by something deeper than rage. You would tear my throne from me with love? Jennifer's gaze softened, but her words held iron. Not tear it, father. Change it. The throne room, once suffocating with fear, erupted in cheers. Villagers burst through the doors, shouting her name. Guards dropped their weapons, kneeling not to the king but to Jennifer. The cousin, realizing his schemes had crumbled, fled into the shadows, his ambitions turned to ash. For the first time in his reign, the Alpha King looked small upon his throne. His shoulders sagged, his crown heavy. He turned his gaze from Jennifer, unable to face the truth he could no longer control. Jennifer walked forward, her chains falling away like dust. She took Charles's hand in hers, raising it high for all to see. This is our future, she declared. Not bloodline, not crowns, not fear, love, unity, and freedom. The kingdom is no longer yours alone, Father. It belongs to us all. The roar of the people shook the walls, drowning out the echoes of tyranny. For the first time, Silverfang was not bound by fear, but lifted by hope. That night, beneath the same moon where their story had begun, Jennifer and Charles stood together on the balcony of the fortress. The village fires no longer burned with destruction, but with celebration. The child within her stirred again, as if blessing the night. Charles kissed her forehead, his voice soft. "We won." Jennifer smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "No, my love. We began." And in that moment, the Alpha King's heiress was no longer just a daughter of power. She was a mother, a queen reborn, and a woman whose love had rewritten the fate of a kingdom. The Silverfang Kingdom would never be the same.